Today's episode is about a complicated man, the 70s answer to Philip Marlowe or Sam Spade, the hard luck, gumshoe, smart aleck, the disdain for authority, having no time for bullshit, thinking on his feet with an unflappable sense of cool confidence. I'm just talking about Shaft. Can you dig it? So today we're talking about Shaft. No, not that one. Shaft. No, not that one either. The original. Hold on, what do we got here? Shaft. We're not talking about the Sam Jackson Shaft movies, fun as they were. They were also kind of poking fun at Shaft, feeling the camp in the original movies, but the first two Shaft movies were savage and witty, and the book we're talking about in this video is a perfect companion to those. So the first Shaft movie came out in 1971 and was based on a novel by Ernest Tidyman. Tidyman wrote 7 Shaft novels between 1970 and 1975. Richard Roundtree starred in 3 movies and a TV series in that same time period. The first movie was directed by Gordon Parks in 1971. Only 2 years earlier, Parks directed The Learning Tree, which is the first movie made in the studio system to be directed by a black man. Parks created the entire blaxploitation genre with Melvin Van Peebles, who did it outside the studio system earlier that same year with Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song. Now, both movies were a breath of fresh air, giving black audiences heroes never before seen on the silver screen. The blaxploitation movement burned bright and fast and didn't quite make it out of the decade. Even the Shaft franchise moved quickly. The sequel, Shaft's Big Score, also directed by Parks, is out the next year in 1972. It's a worthy sequel, more polished technically than the first, but also not as succinct in its plot. And then the third movie was out in 1973. Shaft in Africa gives him some gadgets and drops him into an international caper like James Bond.
No, I'm not James Bond, simply Sam Spade.
I like the idea that Shaft could be an international man of mystery and adventure, but the entire concept of moving him out of an urban environment didn't sit well with audiences, and it watered down his brand a bit, but maybe not as much as the TV series. In 1973 to 1974, we got 7 made-for-TV movies, none of which stands out. Trading the leather jacket for a brown sports jacket, cooling down the language and politics, having him buddy-buddy with the cops. The TV series just really pacified him and took away the tension that brought the character to life. You'd think that 7 TV movies and 7 novels would line up, but the TV series stories are totally their own toothless little corner of the Shaft universe. In The World of Shaft, by Steve Aldous, on page 203, he says, quote, "Where we do see differences are in Shaft's relationship with the NYPD. In the books, his relationship with Lieutenant Vic Androzzi is one based on mutual respect, but is never seen as anything other than a necessity on both parts. Their verbal duels were based on competitive one-upmanship. However, Shaft's relationship with Lieutenant Al Rossi, that's the police chief from the TV series, is much warmer. Shaft has even attended the annual police dance, something he would have never done in the books, winning a set of golf clubs in the raffle which he duly lets Rossi have. Rossi says to Sheriff Bradley that Shaft is one of the best PIs he knows, something Androzzi would have never admitted." Another criticism leveled at the series is that it is merely a black actor reading a white man's part. That criticism ignores the racial undercurrents in the story. There is Williamson's obvious mistrust of blacks, fueled by the fact that he believes his wife's abductors to be black. The mere fact that Shaft is black is what pulls him into the case in the first place. Then there's the bigoted small-town deputy who tries to take Shaft in, not believing his story that he has permission to drive Williamson's car. These elements are central to Woodfield and Balter's plot. The accusation of toned-down violence ignore the use of the dockyard shootout footage from Shaft's Big Score. And after that, we get the 2 Sam Jackson movies, both largely played as comedies, leaning into the camp aspects of the 70s rather than the social commentary. Not that there isn't some commentary in the movies, but it does it safely and risks nothing. They're fun movies, but pretty far from their origins. Okay, now let's talk about our book, or books as there are 2 graphic novels, but we're going to focus on the first, Shaft, A Complicated Man by David F. Walker. I got the Sequels here. Imitation of Life. Back to basics, Walker tells a hard-boiled crime story rooted in the core of the Ernest Tidyman character that started it all. This is the perfect prequel/origin story. Walker is a self-professed fan of Shaft and of the novels, and some of the series is based on information found in the novels, and the tone is pitch perfect. You can hear a young Richard Roundtree saying all of the dialogue. The story is about gangsters killing a girl that Shaft had just fallen for, and him finding the murderer to get revenge and justice. He starts the first issue as a boxer, and we get a glimpse in references to his tour of duty in Vietnam. We see how he becomes a private dick, and then a sex machine to all the chicks. And while they lay in bed afterwards, she tells him that he's a complicated man. I mean, the song becomes part of the origin, or maybe the song was always part of the origin, but now we've got it sort of memorialized in comic book format. We see how he becomes friends with the police lieutenant, how he gets his apartment even. This primes us all for the character in a totally organic and believable way. The caper moves like an Elmore Leonard novel, and with the pacing of a movie, scene for scene, line by line. And the nature of this story being more personal and smaller in scope than the globe-trotting James Bond type stuff that Shaft in Africa had him doing, is making this more of a grounded and engaging experience for readers. Dynamite and Walker have given us 2 miniseries and a prose novel so far, and this is probably the best run for the character since the first 3 movies in the 70s. Covers for the miniseries titled A Complicated Man feature art by Dennis Cohen and Bill Sienkiewicz, and they're amazing. Here's a little taste of those. David Walker is also creator of Naomi for DC, one half of the creative powerhouse unit that delivered Power Man and Iron Fist in recent years, or better yet, the creator of Bitterroot with his Power Man and Iron Fist collab partner Sanford Green. Bitterroot is like a Ghostbusters set in the 1920s in Harlem, centered around a black family of monster hunters. The racial angle, especially during this time period, adds an extra tension and facet of interest, since their battle is outside the law and most demons they're fighting are inhabiting white people like cops. And so it's very compelling to read. The style is very steampunk, and as I make this video, there are 4 volumes available, and I highly suggest the series. I think I probably mentioned this series before in other videos, but that's because it's just that good. And so is this incarnation of Shaft in comics. I really wish Dynamite would work with Walker on more and build the Shaft world out for us. I don't know how well they sold, and that's sadly the name of the game in publishing, right? Or most businesses, at least. And that's why art ends up getting compromised, and as shown throughout this video, Shaft is most exemplary and effective when uncompromised. Just talking about Shaft. Can you dig it? Well, I'll see you next week. You damn right.